Hi, welcome to today's community chat. We're going to be speaking with EVMS, Art Therapy and Counseling Arts for Optimal program. They were awarded the United Way of Southampton Roads Hope and Healing Grant. This was established in response to the mass shooting at the Chesapeake Walmart in November 2022. Now they are working on a workshop series that will begin on Monday, and it's called Visual Conversations, Community Resilience Over Violence. And we're going to be speaking with Dr. Mary Roberts about what this series is and what some of the topics will be and what you can expect, because these workshops are for the public, they're free, and they are wanting community participation. So going to bring Dr. Mary Roberts on. Hi, Dr. Roberts. Thank you so much for joining us to talk about this, as a preview before these begin next week. And they're going to be taking place all over Hampton Roads, correct? So this is something that it's not particular to Chesapeake or to Norfolk. You all really want that engagement over Hampton Roads.
Yes, we have workshops over the next 4 weeks in Chesapeake, end of August through September in Norfolk at Slover Library. Portsmouth Arts and Cultural Center will host our workshops in November. And then next February into March, the Museum of Contemporary Arts in Virginia Beach will host our workshops.
Right. So this is something that's going to continue not just this summer, but really over the course of the next 6 months, 8 months. Yeah.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
for those who might not know what this is yet because it has not begun and it might not have reached their city yet, can you just give us a little bit of a description of what these conversations really are and what are they meant to do?
Yeah. So our Arts for Optimal Health program is hosting these workshops as community service to help individuals who are directly or indirectly impacted by community violence to be able to explore the facts or information about community violence, community gun violence, trauma-informed care and trauma-informed concepts, how we might mentor youth in coping or dealing with mass violence, and fostering resilience in our communities. Those are the 4 topics of the workshops. And so there'll be a public health or community expert presenting information for about 30 minutes. And then I'll, as an art therapist, facilitate art making in response to their experiences, what they've learned from the presentations. And then we'll have some discussion about kind of what they've made in their art, what kind of thoughts and feelings they might have, how we might collect some information to maybe share with other stakeholders about public experiences and opinions. So that's kind of the layout of what's going to happen.
And if people haven't been a part of art therapy before, I mean, can you explain,
Mhm.
what that is and what the art making process is?
Yeah, so I'll just explain 2 parts here. So art therapy is a mental health profession that targets mental illness or helping people for wellness or learning about themselves for optimal functioning. And these workshops, even though they're facilitated by an art therapist, are not going to be art therapy. We're assuming a different stance here where our public may want to just come and express differently than just talking. So these are expressive arts workshops. It's not treatment. We're not looking to solve any big mental concern or big social problem. We're looking to create conversations through art making, and we're using art making because sometimes folks can't find the words to fully express what they've experienced. In addition, when we think about community violence, some folks are directly impacted, some indirectly, and we can bring people together through the arts to develop conversation, sometimes where words can't be found because trauma has occurred. It's traumatic to experience community violence. It's traumatic sometimes to witness the images multiple times, sometimes in media. And so this is a way that we can access the brain and the body through art making to create those conversations.
And, as a part of the process and a part of the conversations you all have chosen, and you just said them, a few minutes ago, but community gun violence, trauma informed care, mentoring youth, and fostering resilience as those four pieces. I mean, those cover, such a broad spectrum. And I know those are all issues that, come up a lot, whether it's, weekly or unfortunately with the mass shooting or with some of these larger events, whether it's at schools or businesses. But, I did want to ask you, your week that you are, correct me if I'm wrong, but also going to give the presentation is with trauma informed care. Can you just explain a little bit about what that is, and is art therapy, is that sometimes a way to do trauma informed care, or can you just talk a little bit about that?
Sure, yeah. So trauma informed care is really coming from the awareness and knowledge that trauma impacts our brain and the way our brain functions. It impacts our body responses. And if we can acknowledge and start to understand what happens in the brain, for instance, a basic principle: when trauma occurs, it disrupts the way that we label our feelings and our response to danger. So sometimes someone who has a traumatic experience might think or experience other experiences traumatic, even if they're not. And so art making can help access the parts of the brain to, again, talk about experiences, to recalibrate the brain, to label things as danger, which are danger, and things that are safe as safe, so that folks aren't in a maybe amped up state when they're responding. So there's kind of a combination, and trauma informed care really takes the restorative approach, where we're not punishing people for behaviors that are difficult. Instead, we're working to understand where they come from and help them understand where they come from.
So is that someone, that might be lashing out due to trauma, or somebody that might have behaviors that are deemed, sort of unruly, due to trauma, or what can that look like?
Yeah, so behaviors related to trauma can look kind of like we might think of acting out, irritability, or anger. And it can also look like numbness, overachieving, kind of doing too much and not really going through feelings and connecting to others, some isolation. So by connecting in a group format like these workshops, people can find connections, they can get a sense of belonging, not feeling alone based on what their thoughts and feelings are related to experiences of violence. And then through the art, we can help tap into labeling feelings, labeling experiences, being able to express it from an internal place to then bring it to a thinking place.
And you all, make the statement, at least on the flyer, to say, those that are directly or indirectly impacted by the trauma. And can you just explain why that's important, for it not to just be available to maybe the people that were directly impacted, but to sort of offer this up more freely to the community?
Yeah, so again, this kind of relates back to, direct impacts are kind of obvious. Someone who was there, someone who has a family member that was injured or maybe died by a mass shooting. Those would be direct impacts. And indirect might be awareness, um, exposure to media coverage, maybe just having a commitment to being a first responder, and experiencing those types of responses to community violence in general. So it can really vary, and it's important to keep it open because we don't know the extent to which someone is directly or indirectly impacted, and this really can meet the needs of multiple people.
And with the impact, I mean, we know around Hampton Roads too, there are other groups that get together to stop the violence, and there's different Q&A sessions, whether that's with police or with other groups. Why is this sort of set up important, and maybe, an interesting way to facilitate these conversations as opposed to maybe, just a Q&A or just a group discussion.
Yeah, so I think this format is important because it gives an opportunity for folks to have some internal reflection through the art making that then can inform or help them determine what intentions or what experiences are most important or most impacted, and then discuss it. Sometimes Q&A become more information based and keep us in our cognitive thinking place. And the art helps to process some of the feelings related to these experiences so that folks don't stay stuck.
And this is open to kids, I believe, that are 14 years and older. Why is it important to include the teenage group in this as well?
Yeah, so part of visual conversations is to really foster the voice of a diverse group from age, ethnicity, different cultural statuses. And so we want to hear the voice of our youth. Also, adolescents are developing their abstract thinking skills, so they often can offer important insights into conversations. So that's why it's not limited to just adults.
Right. And I mean, I think too, you don't know what someone is scared by, I guess, as well, to your point, whether it's the news, whether it's through, connection, through direct relation of knowing somebody that's been involved in gun violence or, different types of violence, or maybe they're worried about safety. So you all are opening it up to just about anyone, right, to join. Are there limits to how large these sessions are? Are you all looking for, a certain amount of participants per workshop?
Yeah, we'd really like to have attendance around 30 per workshop. And so we've limited it to that. When you are working with large groups, leaving enough room and space for art making and discussion is important. And so we'd want to foster an environment where the attendees can participate as much as possible.
And these are going to be offered again, like we said, throughout the area of Hampton Roads. And I think that will be interesting too to see how different the responses are, potentially in these different cities with the same workshop, or even just the different groups that attend.
Mhm. Yeah, one of the things we found in some other visual conversations workshops that were repeated is how similar some of them were, and then some unique nuances, maybe based on culture or kind of the climate of that city. So we're looking forward to reaching many of these Southampton Roads locations and offering services that lead to prevention and wellness of our community.
And, with this idea of resilience, you all obviously, the goal or the intention, at least that it's set forth like in the flyer and in the program, is to help the community adapt and to help the community sort of rise above some of these occasions. I mean, the language there about resiliency over violence. I mean, what were some of the thoughts, behind the development of that and sort of making that the focus? Because you also could have just said, talking about gun violence or talking about, your feelings related to the mass shooting. I mean, why was it really a community effort that you all were focused on?
Well, part of our interest at EVMS is to be community focused. We were developed by the community, and our art therapy and counseling program started in 1973 when EVMS started. And so when we think about the community, we want to think about building and fostering and growth. And so what we kind of know from trauma-informed care is that just talking about trauma isn't actually that helpful. That if we want post-traumatic growth, then we need to find ways to build strengths. And resiliency is all about strengths and adaptability. And so we need to accept that we can never return to our pre-trauma state. Now that our community has experienced gun violence, we can't return to a community that's never experienced it. And so hopefully through some of these conversations and these experiences, the folks that attend will be able to have a sense of acceptance and renewed awareness. And then maybe even the conversations will result in some strengths and resiliency building that can be shared with others and inform community responses.
And if you're worried about going because maybe you are shy, maybe you don't want to participate in a group, I mean, what are some things you would say to that person who might be a little hesitant?
Yeah. So there's a couple things that I think people might be worried about participating in a group, but also art making. So participating in a group, the nice thing about participating in a group is that folks can come and they can participate based on their choice and their level. So for folks who want to know what's going on and engage in listening and art making, um, then you can share on a more limited way. You can have this internal process for yourself and work through kind of your experience of community violence or whatever the topics are. And your verbal sharing is up to you. You get to choose. It's sometimes helpful to hear what other people say and create a sense of connection with others, even just by listening. So if that's a hesitation, you can come and share at the level you want. And then sometimes people say, oh, I'm not an artist and I'm not sure I want to go. And I would say this is an opportunity to maybe nurture a different way of expressing yourselves without the pressure of being an artist. That we have techniques and strategies to help you use art materials for expression, and we're not looking for fine art or artist style art. It's just a way to communicate for you.
And you also are opening up these conversations to having, I think you guys call them community partners, or you're having somebody else in the room. Is that correct? That you have somebody that's a community? Um,
Yeah, sort of. So
okay.
the like we have our presentation about community gun violence is a public health faculty member, Brett Sierra. So he'll stay the whole time and be present and sort of be able to affirm or field some of the kind of concerns that folks bring up from a public health perspective. Um, and then mentoring youth, we have a school counselor presenting, and she'll still be present to kind of help guide and support discussions about our concerns with youth and how we can foster resilience in them. I think that's might be what you're
Yes,
referring
yeah.
to.
Well, it's
Okay.
interesting too. I mean, I imagine, as you're in the art process after the presentation, that things might come up or questions or, different ideas. Because, you can always listen to someone, but, processing time and then taking the time to actually, focus on your feelings, I imagine opens up, maybe even more questions perhaps.
Yeah, so sometimes that internal process leads to more questions or some aha moments that can be shared and affirmed.
And then, Dr. Roberts, is there anything else that we missed? I know a lot of it's going to happen, obviously in the space, and so we're going to have to wait for Monday for people to participate, and hopefully people listening now or through wavy.com. And there is a link available on Facebook right now with more information that goes to your website where people can register and find out, what week they might want to be a part of and see the dates in the other cities. But is there anything else, at least as a preview or looking for this that you want people to know, or that what's the best way for them to participate?
Yeah, I guess I'd want people to know that we do have some food available when you first get there, just because it leads into the evening. And there'll be a variety of art materials each workshop. Some might be tailored to what we're doing, so that'll be guided. Um, and we already have people registered for every workshop segment, like Chesapeake and Norfolk, Portsmouth, and Virginia Beach. So that's pretty exciting. And we just love for folks to participate and engage and be a part of their community and, um, engage with us.
Absolutely. Well, Dr. Roberts, thank you so much for, explaining what these are. And, if you are interested, please go to the link at the website and you can find out more about the workshops and, take the time to learn about maybe which topic relates to you. I guess another question is, can you sign up for multiple? Can you go to all four if you're interested?
Yeah, we'd really encourage folks to go to all four sessions of the workshop. Or if you need to go to different locations to catch all four sessions, that would be fine. They can stand alone, but we'd really like for folks to be able to experience all four.
And then the last one about, reaction once you're in these workshops. Is it all right if you do have an emotional reaction, if you do need to take a break, if you need to step outside? Are those things that you all, I'm sure, are prepared for, but that you're open for people to have those full reactions?
Of course, yeah. I mean, that's part of the benefit of having an art therapist like me facilitating is that when someone is experiencing a lot of affect or something seems intense, we can provide space or intervention for that. And then we also have referral sources to link for additional services if needed. And we can help participants or attendees navigate that.
Great. Well, Dr. Roberts, thank you so much. And I hope attendance is, you know, up and full, at these workshops, and there is a good community reaction to it because I do think it's a very unique, free space for somebody to try out something new if they're looking to process or looking to learn more.
Thank you so much for promoting this project and supporting us and the community and exploring about community gun violence.
Absolutely. Well, thank you everyone for watching, and please look at the link in the Facebook description right on the website as well as on WAVY.com to find out more about this project. Thank you.